Hello and a very warm welcome. Thanks for tuning in to News9 Live. I'm Kabir Naqvi and let's take a look at the top stories we're tracking for you this news hour and shifting our focus to what's really happening with the Khalistani issue and how Western media is actually trying to portray it. Take a look at this first one. Now, with the US agencies claiming to have foiled a plot to kill Khalistani terrorist and US citizen Gurpatwant Singh Pannun on US soil, the Khalistan issue is once again in the news. Now, while the issue is a non-issue in India, with only a handful of people supporting the Khalistan cause, Khalistan does remain a plot with which international actors now look to target India and its sovereignty and territorial integrity. A propaganda article has been published by the New York Times. A New York Times article which represents and presents the Khalistan cause to be something rooted deep down in Sikhism. There are several other claims which the article makes, which do not actually hold ground. Let's rebut those claims one by one. Now take a look at this. The article mentions that the idea of Khalistan is rooted in Sikhism. Meanwhile, the claim is actually based on a highly problematic understanding of the religion itself. Sikhism as an ideology teaches about being devoted to God and considering all humans as equal irrespective of their caste, their creed and their gender. The first claim on your screens over there. The claim says the idea of Khalistan is rooted deep in Sikhism. Meanwhile, the actual fact, it seems, is that Sikhism does not talk about a separate home for Sikhs. Sikhism teaches to live in harmony. Nowhere does Sikhism of a separate homeland for Sikhs based on their religion. In fact, even the present-day state of Punjab in India came into being on the basis of the Punjabi language and not on the basis of the religion. Let's take a look at the second claim now. The article suggests that a political angle to the religion of Sikhism was given by the 10th Sikh Guru, Guru Gobind Singh, who espoused the idea of Sikh rule. The article says this was done by the Guru as a remedy for decades of misrule under the Mughal dynasty. Now, while Guru Gobind Singh did espouse the idea of Sikh rule, it was not because of misrule under the Mughals, but because of persecution faced by the people at the hands of the Mughal forces. This persecution was faced by both the Hindus and the Sikhs who resided in the north or the northwestern region of erstwhile India. The idea behind Sikh rule was to establish law and order in the region and to protect residents, mostly Sikhs and Hindus, from persecution. The article further reads that the carving of Khalistan from India is opposed by the Modi government. Another case of the author having no knowledge of history. Each and every government in India has opposed the idea of Khalistan. Former Prime Minister Indira Gandhi ordered the Operation Blue Star and even eventually lost her life as she stood against the creation of Khalistan. The idea and creation of Khalistan is opposed by India, irrespective of the government in power. The article later goes on to refer to Gurpatwant Singh Pannun and Hardeep Singh Nijjar as insurgents, militants and separatists. Not once has the word terrorist been used to call these people out for what they really are. Now, Gurpatwant Singh Pannun had just a few days back issued an open threat to those travelling from Air India planes, and yet the Western nations do not see it as terrorism. These kinds of propaganda pieces are slowly becoming common coming from international newspapers. While the Indian government remains completely opposed to the idea of Khalistan, Indian government has repeatedly asserted that any failure by foreign government to tackle Sikh separatism would be an obstacle to good relations with that particular country. And shifting our focus here, take a look at this. A Reuters exclusive report citing an undisclosed Ukrainian source has said that Ukraine's domestic intelligence agency set off explosives on a Russian railway line deep inside Siberia, which is the second attack this week itself on military supply routes in the region. Now, these actions indicate Kiev's capacity for sabotaging Russian logistics, sabotage in Russia and disrupting logistics from the front lines of Moscow's ongoing 21-month-old war in Ukraine. The explosives were allegedly detonated as a freight train crossed the Chertov Bridge in Siberia's Buryatia region, situated thousands of kilometers from Ukraine. Just a day earlier, an attack on a nearby tunnel led to trains being diverted to a backup railway line, and the Ukrainian source attributing both operations to the security service of Ukraine shared a similar damage assessment referencing Russian telegram channels. Now, Reuters was unable to independently verify the information or ascertain if the route is used for military supplies, but noted that Russian railways also declined to comment on the latest incident. And according to the same Ukrainian source that has been cited in that exclusive Reuters report, the SBU, which is the spy agency, the Special Services Agency of Ukraine, the SBU detonated explosives in a prior attack on Thursday as a cargo train passed through the Servo-Muyuski tunnel in Buryatia. Now, Russian investigators reportedly have labeled this incident as a terrorist act by unidentified individuals. And it's again important to note here, ladies and gentlemen, that the Trans-Siberian Railway, considered crucial for Russian freight and transport, faces potential disruptions amid these events. Russian Railways, the primary source of information, has chosen not to comment on this situation. Meanwhile, a Russian industry source, choosing to remain anonymous, mentioned that the backup route was operational and in use by freight-carrying trains on Friday afternoon. Shifting our focus to Southeast Asia, where alarm bells are once again ringing as China is seeing a rise in cases of pneumonia and other respiratory illnesses. Clusters of such cases have been reported, especially among children in northern China region. This has led to schools being shut and pediatric hospitals getting overwhelmed. Some of those pictures on your screens as we speak. But the Chinese authorities, on being inquired by the World Health Organization, have said that the spike in such cases is linked to lifting of the COVID-19 related restrictions, and there is no reason to be alarmed but natural. They have also said that the spike in cases is not caused by any unknown or strange pathogen. They say the respiratory illness is being caused by known bacteria, Mycoplasma pneumoniae. It's bacteria which usually affects the young ones and the children. But the international community is keeping a close eye nonetheless. Governments across the world refuse to take China on its word. India's union government has asked states to keep a vigil on travelers from China and be prepared for any emergency. In the United States, a group of Republican senators have called upon President Joe Biden to ban travel from China to protect against the spread of respiratory illness.
One of the reasons.
Next up, developments in American politics. The United States' House of Representatives voted 311 to 114 to expel Republican George Santos, ending his brief career due to criminal corruption charges and campaign fund misuse. Now, Santos, facing revelations of lies about his past in a federal indictment, became the 6th member expelled from the House and the first without fighting for the Confederacy or being convicted of a crime. Now, following the vote, Santos expressed defiance, stating that he no longer had to answer those questions and expressing discontent with the situation and the institution. New York Governor Kathy Hochul has now about 10 days to call a special election for Santos' seat, expected to take place 70 to 80 days from the proclamation. Now, Santos had admitted to fabricating parts of his biography and faced federal charges of laundering campaign funds and defrauding donors, to which he pleaded not guilty. The expulsion followed a scathing House Ethics Committee report revealing campaign money spent on spa treatments, luxury retail, and explicit online platform.
Clerk will report the title of the resolution.
House Resolution 878, resolution providing for the expulsion of Representative George Santos from the United States House of Representatives.
The question is on the adoption of the resolution. Members record their vote by electronic device. This is a 5-minute vote.
On this vote, the yeas are 311, the nays are 114, with 2 recorded as present. 2/3 voting in the affirmative, the resolution is adopted, and a motion to reconsider is laid upon the table. The clerk will notify the governor of the state of New York of the action of the House. Under Clause 5D of Rule 20, the chair announces to the House that in light of the expulsion of the gentleman from New York, Mr. Santos, the whole number of the House is now 434.
I had no skin in the game.
Did you know this is how it was gonna go? Did you know this is how it was gonna go?
You know what? As unofficially already no longer a member of Congress, I no longer have to answer single questions to you guys. That is the one thing that I've been saying forever.
Don't let the door hit you.
And shifting our focus to the United Kingdom, where Buckingham Palace is reportedly considering legal action over the naming of two royals in a resurfaced racism row within the royal family. The issue gained traction after King Charles and Catherine, Princess of Wales, were reportedly identified in the Dutch version of Omid Scobie's book Endgame as the individuals discussing Prince Archie's skin color. The palace is said to be exploring all options in response to these developments. When questioned by the BBC regarding reports of potential legal proceedings, a palace spokesperson stated, "We're exploring all options." And that's all. Now, during his Talk TV show on Wednesday, journalist Piers Morgan also revealed the names of the royals mentioned in the now pulled and pulp translated version of Scobie's book. Scobie, on the other hand, claimed that he did not know how the Dutch translation of the book included the names. He swore on his life that the names was not a stunt. He asserted that a full investigation was underway to determine how the names were included, adding that the English version that he wrote, the book that he edited, did not have the names in it.
Madam Kim Keon-hee.
Well, next up, our segment on day 57 of the West Asian conflict between Israel and Hamas. The following content may contain visuals that are disturbing, graphic, or sensitive in nature. Viewer discretion is advised. This material is intended for mature audiences and may not be suitable for all viewers. Please exercise caution while watching, and if you find such content distressing, we recommend discontinuing viewing. This disclaimer is provided to ensure awareness and to prioritize viewer well-being. And the war between Israel and Hamas has now entered its 57th day. Let's get you the latest update from the war front on your screens first. Take a look at this. Israel has pounded Gaza since the resumption of fighting. This even as 184 Palestinians have been killed since the truce ended on Friday morning, as per the latest figures that have been put out by the Gaza and Health Ministry. According to the UNRWA, no humanitarian aid was allowed into Gaza Strip on Friday. According to the Gazan Health Ministry, Rafah crossing is going to remain open on Saturday, the only point, the lone point from where aid can actually trickle in to the Palestinian enclave. And Gaza is the most dangerous place in the world to be a child. This is a statement that has come across from UNICEF. Now the United Nations has regretted the resumption of the hostilities and has called the situation catastrophic, but Rishi Sunak, United Kingdom's Prime Minister, he said that the breakdown of the truce is actually deeply disappointing. Now, Israeli shelling was also witnessed in South Lebanon that has in fact claimed 3 lives as well, this being corroborated by the Lebanese media. And the Israeli Defense Forces continued their onslaught on the Gazan Strip, and that's not all. They also launched air attacks near Damascus, this being corroborated by reports coming across from Syria. The truce was held for a small period of 7 days. And as the truce between Israel and Hamas came to an abrupt end, flares fell over Gaza on Friday night yet again, and Israel's warplanes returned to pound the Gaza Strip. Within a few hours of the truce expiring, Gazan officials reported that 184 Palestinians were killed since the truce ended on Friday morning, while dozens of others were wounded in airstrikes. Israel and Hamas accused each other of not abiding by negotiations. Meanwhile, the White House stated that the Hamas terrorist group had failed to produce a new list of hostages to release, preventing an extension of the truce. Israel's military reported that its ground, air and naval forces had targeted over 200 terror targets in the enclave since the very morning. Now, Hamas is putting out videos, but so is the IDF. The Israeli army released a video on Friday saying that it's showing airstrikes on various Hamas targets across the Gazan Strip. Israeli army said it has struck 200 targets in north and south of Gaza, including across Khan Yunis and Rafah since the morning. Eastern areas of Khan Yunis in southern Gaza came under intensive bombardment as the deadline lapsed shortly after dawn, with columns of smoke rising into the sky. In the north of the enclave, previously the main war zone, huge plumes of smoke rose above the ruins seen from across the fence in Israel. Meanwhile, for all the latest updates, News9 has placed its boots on the ground. The war in Gaza recommenced as Israel's defense forces bombarded the strip with their airstrikes and artillery. Our reporter on the ground, Vipin Chaube, will take you through the situation in Palestine at the present moment. Take a look.
हम इस वक्त तेल अवीव से गाजा बॉर्डर के रास्ते में हैं और आप एक बार फिर से देखिए इस तरह की गाड़ियां, बख्तरबंद गाड़ियां, आर्मी के टैंक्स, इसके अलावा जो मिसाइल कैरियर्स है वो सब आपको नजर नहीं आती थी बीच में, लेकिन अब स्टॉप फॉर 1 मिनट, लेकिन अब वो आपको यहां पर नजर आ रही है। ये तमाम तैयारियां की जा रही हैं सीजफायर टूटने के बाद और इन गाड़ियों को बिल्कुल तैयार रहने के लिए कहा गया है। फिलहाल आप इन गाड़ियों की तैनाती को देख सकते हैं और इसके जरिए आप ये समझने की कोशिश करिए कि वॉर कैसे बढ़ रहा है। माना यह जा रहा है कि अब तक जो वॉर हुआ है उससे विभत्स ये वॉर होगा और उसकी तस्दीक करती हुई ये तस्वीर आपको नजर आ रही है। अब देखिए बिल्कुल करीब से उन टैंक्स की तस्वीरें, उन तोपों की तस्वीरें जो बॉर्डर पर इस युद्ध को लड़ेंगी। फिलहाल यहां हमें रुकने की इजाजत नहीं है, इसलिए चलती गाड़ी से इन तस्वीरों को दिखाने का मकसद यही था कि आप ये समझिए कैसे इस युद्ध को अब दूसरे तरीके से लड़ने जा रहा है और ये पार्ट 2 कहा जा रहा है। सीजफायर के बाद पहली बार इस युद्ध को अब दोबारा से शुरू किया जा रहा है और माना यह जा रहा है कि पहले से भी ज्यादा विध्वंसक ये युद्ध होगा। कैमरा पर्सन गंगा के साथ विपिन चौबे, TV9 भारतवर्ष, स्टे रोड, गाजा स्ट्रिप। इस वक्त हम गाजा के रास्ते में हैं और अभी देखिए जैसे ही रास्ते में जा रहे हैं इस तरीके से हमले किए जा रहे हैं और ये वो रॉकेट्स आ रहे हैं गाजा पट्टी के इलाके से जिनको आयरन डोम निष्क्रिय कर रहा है। ये देखिए कैसे कैसे ये आया है और इसको हवा में कैसे निष्क्रिय किया गया है। सामने की तरफ दिखाइए गंगा, वहां पर काला उठता हुआ धुआं उस ट्रांसफार्मर के बगल से, मतलब युद्ध विध्वंसक हो रहा है और उसके प्रमाण, उसकी तस्दीक करती हुई ये तस्वीरें देखिए। आयरन डोम बॉर्डर के इलाके में बहुत ज्यादा सक्रिय है। आज सुबह 7 बजे से जो सीज फायर की मियाद है वो टूट चुकी है और उसके बाद से लगातार दोनों तरफ से हमले किए जा रहे हैं और हमलों के बाद देखिए कैसे चेक पोस्ट पर तैनाती को बढ़ा दिया गया। ये बंकर है जहां पर जैसे ही ये हमला हुआ है लोग इस बंकर में आकर छिप गए हैं। देखिए इस बंकर को हम आपको दिखाने की कोशिश करते हैं। इसी तरह के बंकर्स जगह जगह पर बनाए गए हैं और आयरन डोम इस तरह के हमले को फिलहाल निष्क्रिय कर रहा है और रास्तों में भी लोग डरे सहमे नजर आ रहे हैं। बॉर्डर की तरफ ले चलेंगे आपको, वहां क्या कुछ है वो भी आपको दिखाएंगे, लेकिन फिलहाल ये समझते चलिए कि स्थिति और भी विध्वंसक होने जा रही है। कैमरा पर्सन गंगा के साथ विपिन चौबे, TV9 भारतवर्ष, गाजा बॉर्डर।
Well, we've shown you what's happening inside the Gaza Strip and in the nearby areas, but the ripple effect of this conflict can be felt in far-flung places. In the United States, former California Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger, he met with relatives of 3 individuals seized by Hamas in Israel, showing support for those still missing after the October 7th attack. Arnold Schwarzenegger, declaring himself a friend of the Jewish people and Israel, presented bronze eagle sculptures to the visitors at a video production company in Santa Monica. The visitors in turn gave Schwarzenegger a quote-unquote bring them home dog tags as they seek to raise awareness and support for the release of their loved ones. Israel claims that Hamas took 240+ hostages in the October 7th attack, resulting in the 1,200 deaths, sparking conflict in West Asia. A 7-day pause in fighting led to the release of 110 hostages, including 86 Israelis and 24 foreigners, all of it in exchange for Palestinian detainees. Additionally, the bodies of 2 hostages were recovered by Israeli troops. Now, Schwarzenegger, leveraging his celebrity status, expressed his commitment to using his influence to draw attention to the situation and urged not abandoning those still held captive.
And I always want to be there for the Jewish people and for Israel. I am a big friend of the Jewish people and Israel. The most common thing that I heard was that you want to get the message out. You want to share the message. And I think this is where I come in. Because when you're a celebrity, then you have a certain kind of a power to communicate to the mass because you have a lot of cameras show up. And without really the media you cannot really communicate to the mass. And I think this is a story that everyone in the world needs to hear. And not just once, but as many times as possible. Because it shows once again what hate can do.
Now, pro-Palestinian, anti-Israeli protests have taken all types of shapes and sizes, but this one got a little more critical. A protester with a Palestinian flag self-immolated on Friday right outside the Israeli consulate in Atlanta. The person, whom the officials did not identify, is currently in a critical condition, according to the police chief. And a security guard who attempted to intervene, who was also successful in that particular intervention, albeit just a little bit too late, was also injured. He sustained a lot of injuries. Now, according to the chief, who said this on record, he says that we believe that it was an act of extreme political protest. The protester, according to the police, arrived around 12:17 p.m. at the office building, which houses the consulate as well as several other businesses, and used gasoline in this self-immolation bid. And from Atlanta, cutting across to DC, where protesters wearing the keffiyeh, the traditional black and white checkered scarf that is worn in West Asia, and waved Palestinian flags demanding the end of the siege on Gaza. The demonstrators on Friday held a rally as well, a prayer vigil, right outside the Embassy of Israel in Washington.
Palestine will be free! Palestine will be free! Free Palestine! Free!
Meanwhile, it's interesting to note that since the Israel-Hamas war began, Israel has been pounding Gaza, killing more than 15,000 people, many of them children, according to the Gaza Health Ministry. Now, while Israel takes pride in its technological prowess, there is a report in The Guardian that shows how Israel has been using artificial intelligence to target Hamas. Take a look at this. Guardian has revealed details on AI target creation platform, The Gospel. Now, IDF is using an AI-based system called Habsora, according to the report. It was being used to produce targets at a faster pace. Now, the Israeli Defense Forces targeting processes confirmed the existence of the Gospel, according to the report. The report also clarifies that it is used to produce automated recommendations for attacking targets. And the report also states that the target division has helped the Israeli Defense Forces build a database of about 30,000 to 40,000 suspects. And the target division is powered by artificial intelligence capabilities, as cited by the report. Now, the report also says that it produces vast amounts of data more effectively than any human, and 100 targets a day are being generated during Israel's war with Hamas in 2021. This machine produces 100 targets a day as compared to 50 targets earlier. What forms of data are ingested into the Gospel right now is currently not known, according to the report. Meanwhile, experts are skeptical that AI-based systems reduced civilian harm. Meanwhile, the Gospel had allowed the Israeli Defense Forces to run quote-unquote mass assassination factories, as cited in the Guardian report. And while shifting our focus to some other top international reports as well, retired Justice Sandra Day O'Connor, the first woman on the United States Supreme Court, whose centrist views and shrewd negotiating skills allowed her to steer the nation's law for pretty much a quarter-century tenure. She died on Friday at the age of 93. Here is the report. Take a look.
And today, I rise, along with my colleagues representing all of Arizona, Republicans and Democrats alike, to honor the life and legacy of the most influential Arizonan in history, Justice Sandra Day O'Connor.
Sandra Day O'Connor, the first woman to sit on the U.S. Supreme Court, died on Friday at the age of 93. The court said in a statement that O'Connor died in Phoenix of complications related to dementia and a respiratory illness. She grew up in Arizona and lived there most of her life. O'Connor was sworn in as the first female Supreme Court justice in 1981. an appointee of then Republican President Ronald Reagan. She was conservative by nature, having grown up in an Arizona ranch family. But her pragmatism and knack for consensus building put her at the court's ideological center. As a former Republican state senator and later Arizona's Senate Majority Leader, another first-in-the-nation achievement, O'Connor understood how to strategize with colleagues to get a majority decision. Over her quarter-century tenure, O'Connor avoided sweeping pronouncements and voted for incremental change. And over time, her views became more liberal. She was a pivotal vote on some of the most contentious issues of her era, including preserving a woman's right to abortion and upholding affirmative action on college campuses. O'Connor once compared her tenure to walking on wet cement, saying, "Every opinion you offer, you've left a footprint." She retired from the court in 2006, replaced by the more ideologically rigid conservative Justice Samuel Alito. After retirement, she dedicated herself to improving civics education. In 2009, former Democratic President Barack Obama presented O'Connor with the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian honor a president can give.
Meanwhile, the U.S. National Highway Traffic Safety Administration said on Friday that it is opening an investigation into the 73,000 Chevrolet Volt plug-in hybrid cars. Well, this over reports of abrupt loss of power, failures of restarting the car, and other several issues.
Chevrolet's plug-in hybrid Volt, a favorite among consumers after it debuted back in 2010, is now under investigation by U.S. auto regulators for alleged incidents involving loss of power, failures to restart, and other issues. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration said it was looking into 73,000 Volts, model years 2016 through 2019, after 61 complaints tied to the Battery Energy Control Module, or BECM, which manages the charging and use of the hybrid battery. Some said there was little to no warning before the loss of operating power or reduced power mode occurred. Parent company General Motors previously issued a technical service bulletin saying if vehicles fail to restart, the BECM may need to be replaced and reprogrammed. That's according to NHTSA, which added that GM has not issued any recalls. Some owners have told NHTSA they have waited months or been unable to get replacement battery modules after experiencing the issue. An owner in Los Angeles said the Volt, quote, suddenly and unexpectedly lost propulsion while driving, adding that the vehicle is no longer able to turn on or drive. Another said the Volt would not drive more than 35 miles per hour on the highway and that it randomly stopped driving when in electric mode. The automaker did not immediately comment on the investigation. The Volt topped Consumer Reports' annual owner satisfaction survey in both 2011 and 2012. GM ended production of the car in 2019.
And moving on, the European Union's drug watchdog. It has requested for more data from makers of a class of diabetes and weight loss drugs, including Novo Nordisk's popular therapies, to further investigate suicidal thoughts in some patients that are taking them.
The EU's drug watchdog will seek more data from certain makers of diabetes and weight loss drugs to further investigate suicidal thoughts in some patients taking them. This includes Novo Nordisk's popular medicines Ozempic and Wegovy. On Friday, the European Medicines Agency said in a statement that while at this point no conclusion can be drawn on a causal association, there are several issues that still need to be clarified. The move followed a review that started in July and covered a range of drugs known as GLP-1 receptor agonists. This type of drug triggers a feeling of fullness after eating and slow gastric emptying, and includes Eli Lilly's Trulicity, Sanofi's Suliqua, and Novo's Saxenda. The EMA had initially received reports from the Icelandic Medicines Agency based on 2 cases involving an active ingredient in Saxenda and 1 case involving an active ingredient in Ozempic and Wegovy. The review was also based on at least 170 case reports from Vigilance, a system to register suspected adverse reactions to medicines. Separately, Reuters reported in September that the US Food and Drug Administration had received 265 reports of suicidal thoughts or behaviour in patients taking GLP-1 medication between 2010 and June 2023. The FDA said at the time it was reviewing such reports to decide on what action, if any, to take. Issues of suicidal thoughts have hobbled previous attempts by the drug industry to develop lucrative weight loss drugs. But obesity experts have said that reduced calorie intake as a result of strict dieting or gastric surgery can also lead to depression in rare cases. The EMA's move marked the first major global regulator to provide an update on such reviews of these drugs. The Watchdog's Risk Assessment Committee, which monitors drugs' side effects, will return to the topic in April 2024.
And ladies and gentlemen, let's circle back to what's happening on the political chess pieces back at home. We are looking at our next mandate segment, the semi-finals to the 2024 general elections. How about you and I? We come together and count down the verdict delivered by voters in Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh and Telangana. Now, the exit polls have, of course, given an edge to the Bharatiya Janata Party in Madhya Pradesh and Rajasthan and has projected a Congress victory in Chhattisgarh and Telangana, sort of like a 2-2 situation. Now, the counting of votes polled in Mizoram will be done on Monday and not on Sunday. But together, these states sent 83 members to the Lok Sabha, which is again a significant amount. The results are thus being closely watched since it will indicate the mood ahead of the 2024 parliamentary polls. Now, ahead of counting of votes and in view of the close contest projected, different parties have begun taking guard to ensure that their MLAs don't get poached by their rivals. The Congress has tasked its troubleshooter and Karnataka Deputy Chief Minister DK Shivakumar to ensure party MLAs do not get poached.
Moment at this point of time, how you are handling, sir? There is a sources saying that you have booked resort and you are going to bring the MLAs here to safeguard them.
No. I think there is no problem, no threat, anything. We have confidence. Our party will win comfortably. All legislators will be loyal. We know that they are trying to trap. We don't know all information. Our candidates themselves have informed them that they have been approached by the CM directly himself. So we have got information.
Meanwhile, in Rajasthan, where others are projected to win a few seats and potentially emerge kingmakers, the BSP has already expelled party leader Sumit Singh Jahaji for participating in anti-party activities.
मैं तो पहले राजस्थान के बारे में अगर बताऊं तो राजस्थान को मैं पहले ही बताया था। आपका भी रिप्रेजेंटेटिव एएनआई का जो रिप्रेजेंटेटिव है उधर भी मेरे मुलाकात बहुत बार हुआ था। एएनआई को भी मैंने बताया था, बाकी सब लोगों को भी बताया था। राजस्थान में हम शानदार जीत हासिल कर रहे हैं। तो अभी तो आपका एग्जिट पोल भी वही दिखा रहे हैं और मुझे पहले से भी मेरा विश्वास था, आज भी विश्वास है। राजस्थान में हम बहुत बड़ी मार्जिन से जीत रहे हैं और बाकी मध्य प्रदेश छत्तीसगढ़ में भी हमारा परफॉर्म, मध्य प्रदेश में तो उधर भी अच्छा बहुत बढ़िया जीत होगा। छत्तीसगढ़ में ऑफकोर्स टाइट फाइट है, लेकिन विल फॉर्म द गवर्नमेंट इन छत्तीसगढ़। इससे कोई इशू ही नहीं है जी, ये तो अननेसेसरली वो तो उन लोगों का प्रॉब्लम है। वो तो जब वो हारने की स्थिति में पहुंच जाते हैं, वो तो ईवीएम को और चुनाव आयोग को ऐसे उनके ऊपर इल्जाम लगाने का उनका एक, और बीजेपी को, रिसोर्ट पॉलिटिक्स को, जब अपने घर आप ठीक नहीं रखते हो तो बाद में बाकी, क्योंकि अपने आप का जो वीकनेस है वो स्वीकारते नहीं है, वो करेक्टिव मेजर्स नहीं करते हैं, बाद में अपने ऊपर, बीजेपी के ऊपर आरोप करते हैं।
देखिए, मेरा पूरा विश्वास है कि राजस्थान में हमारी सरकार बनने वाली है। मैंने खुद वहां पे बहुत समय बिताया है। मैंने खुद देखा है कि जमीनी सच्चाई क्या है और मेरा पूरा विश्वास है कि कल हमारी सरकार राजस्थान के लोगों का पूरा समर्थन मिलेगा, आशीर्वाद मिलेगा। देखिए, भाजपा से हम विभिन्न प्रकार की बातें हम सुन रहे हैं अगर उनको इतना ही आत्मविश्वास है अपनी जीत पर, तो इस प्रकार की बेबुनियाद बातें रिजॉर्ट पॉलिटिक्स की क्यों कर रहे हैं? क्यों उनके जो विधानसभा के नेता हैं राठौर जी, उनको क्यों चिट्ठी लिखनी पड़ रही है निर्वाचन आयोग को? तो ये पहले से ही एक बहाना बना रहे हैं। उनमें जो उनके चेहरों पे किसी प्रकार की आत्मविश्वास नहीं झलकती, जबकि आपने देखा कि आदरणीय गहलोत साहब जी हो, आदरणीय डोटासरा जी हो, आदरणीय सचिन पायलट जी हो, पहले दिन से बोल रहे हैं कि पूर्ण बहुमत से हमारी सरकार बनने वाली है। देखिए, मैं ओवरऑल मुझे लगता है कि इन 5 विधानसभा निर्वाचन से विरोधी शक्ति को बहुत ताकत मिला है, इंडिया अलायंस को बहुत ताकत मिला है, और कल एक बहुत ही अच्छा एक महत्वपूर्ण कड़ी होगी इंडिया अलायंस के लिए 2024 के निर्वाचन के लिए। और कल के विधानसभा निर्वाचन के रिजल्ट्स के बाद, नतीजों के बाद एक मोमेंटम मिलेगा, एक बहुत महत्वपूर्ण मोमेंटम मिलेगा, एक गति मिलेगी, और उसको आगे लेते हुए इंडिया अलायंस को और हमको काम करना है, आगे का रास्ता तैयार करना है।
क्योंकि जुगाड़ का जनघट जो है वो जनादेश के पनघट की सुशासन की संकल्प को, स्थायित्व के संकल्प को और सरकार की जो स्टेबिलिटी है उसको नुकसान पहुंचाता है। इसलिए हमें पूरा विश्वास है कि जो चारों राज्यों के रिजल्ट आएगा, जनादेश आएगा, वो जुगाड़ का जनघट नहीं बल्कि जनादेश का पनघट साबित होगा।
Now, the Election Commission has deferred the counting of votes for the Mizoram Assembly polls by 1 day from the 3rd of December till the 4th of December. This decision followed pressure from political parties, the church and civil societies urging the Commission not to conduct counting on Sunday, which is a day of veneration for Christians in Mizoram. The Commission received several representations requesting a change in the counting date due to its special significance for the people of Mizoram. Mizoram NGO Coordination Committee organized a public gathering condemning the Sunday counting and urging the Election Commission to reschedule it to a weekday. Civil societies described the decision as a divine intervention, expressing happiness and attributing it to the sincerest of prayers. The counting will now take place on the 3rd of December, on the 4th of December, beginning at 8 a.m. in all the 13 counting centers and 40 counting halls across Mizoram, involving over 4,000 counting personnel, 399 EVM tables, along with 56 postal ballot tables particularly. Now, meanwhile, in the Mizoram polls, there was a disagreement among the various agencies regarding the leading party between the Mizo National Front, which is the MNF, and the Zoram People's Movement, the ZPM. But unanimous consensus existed that the Congress party secured the 3rd position in the race for the formation of government. Notably, the India Today My Access India poll stood out by providing a decisive mandate favouring the ZPM in the 40-member House. The prospect of a House that is hung looms certainly large should the election results fail to produce a clear majority. Such an outcome would mark a significant turning point in the state's political history, introducing a new and challenging dynamic for the formation of the government in Mizoram for the first time.
Is also happy with this because, as we all know, Mizoram is a Christian state in which, on Sunday it's a church day for all of us. Counting votes on Sunday will be a big problem for many of the churchgoers and even the ones who are not going to the church because, 90% of the activities stop on Sunday. So it is a very welcome decision from the ECI. And this is not unprecedented because 2013, if you look back 10 years ago, the ECI, they have already, issued the polling day as well as the counting day, which after the request from the political parties and all the NGOs and the churches, they had already shifted the dates. That was 10 years back. They are doing it again. So I'm very happy because anyway, the vote will never change, It's only the day.
Well, it was certainly a fever pitch election campaigning in all these 5 states. A lot of youngsters this time around that were involved. What is going to be the result? Well, tune into News 9 Live from tomorrow morning onwards to catch all the latest developments. We're not going to be jumping the gun, but giving you precise information with a nuanced perspective as well.
चलो जी कौनी मिले वोट जी
गाली भड़काने वाली स्पीच हो रही है
केसीआर की आदत झूठे वायदे करके उन्हें तोड़ देने की है।
केसीआर, चैन की नींद मत सो, आपका समय अब समाप्त हो चुका है।
जब तक केसीआर जिंदा है तब तक तेलंगाना रियासत एक सेक्युलर रियासत ही बने रहेगा।
मारूफु कवाली, कांग्रेस रवाली।
मध्य प्रदेश जो है भ्रष्टाचार का कैपिटल है।
Well, Mandate 2023. Well, that's going to be our focus tomorrow onwards. Do tune in to News9 Live for all the latest details. Meanwhile, moving on with tensions flaring up at the Nagarjuna Sagar Dam that's located at the border between Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. The central government has now stepped in and called upon the Central Reserve Police Force to take over the security at the dam. The centre has also urged both the states to revert to the release of Nagarjuna Dam waters as of November 28. Now, tensions flared up just hours before Telangana went to polls on the 30th of November. Authorities in Andhra Pradesh took charge of the Nagarjuna Sagar Dam and began releasing water into the state. Nearly 700 officers from the Andhra Pradesh police stormed into the dam premises and opened the right canal to release 500 cusecs of Krishna River water per hour. Telangana Chief Secretary A. Santhi Kumari said that by forcibly taking over the dam and its operations, Andhra Pradesh has created a law and order problem, especially at a time when the entire state administration was busy in conducting assembly elections. Andhra Pradesh Irrigation Minister Ambati Rambabu has, however, said that the state only took the water that belongs to the state as per the treaty between Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. The winter session of the parliament is going to commence soon. Monday onwards, the winter session sits down. Now, the Lok Sabha Ethics Committee will be tabling its report in the Parliament in the Maua Moitra cash for query case on the 4th of December, which is the first day of the winter session of the Parliament. The report, adopted by the committee earlier this month, proposes the expulsion of the Trinamool Congress Member of Parliament Maua Moitra from the Lok Sabha. 6 members of the ethics panel supported the report on the charge against TMC MP Maua Moitra, while 4 members had opposed it. Lok Sabha Speaker Om Birla had ordered the ethics panel inquiry against Moitra based on a complaint by BJP Member of Parliament Nishikant Dubey. Dubey had accused the Trinamool Congress leader of taking a bribe from businessman Darshan Hiranandani for quote-unquote asking questions inside the parliament. Opposition members have termed the report a fixed match and said that the complaint filed by Nishikant Dubey was not supported by even a shred of evidence. Leader of the Congress party in the parliament, the largest opposition party, Aditya Chaudhary, he has written a letter to the Lok Sabha Speaker on the issue of proceedings of the ethics committee. He's asked for a review and recasting of the rules and processes that relate to the functioning of the committee. Now, Maua Moitra can be expelled only if the House votes in favor of the panel's recommendation. The winter session of the parliament begins on Monday and is scheduled to continue till the 22nd of the month. And India's space research prowess. After Chandrayaan 3, it was all eyes on Aditya L1. And take a look at this, another update over there. The Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO, has informed that the solar wind ion spectrometer, the Swiss experiment payload on the aspects, which is the second instrument in the Aditya solar wind particle experiment of its maiden solar mission, Aditya L1, it is now operational. What you see on your screens is a histogram. Now, the solar wind ion spectrometer, which is also called SWISS in its acronym form, it is the second instrument in the Aditya solar wind particle experiment payload. The histogram, which you're seeing on your screens, illustrates the energy variations in proton and alpha particle counts captured by the SWISS payload over the last 2 days. Now, according to ISRO, a sample energy histogram is acquired from one of the sensors over the 2 days in November 2023, and it illustrates variations in proton, that is H+, and alpha particles, that is double ionized helium, which is He2+. Now, these variations were recorded with nominal integration time, providing a comprehensive snapshot of the solar wind behavior, of course, for the inference of the scientists out there. Now, the directional capabilities of SWISS enable precise measurement of solar wind protons and alphas, contributing significantly to addressing long-standing questions about solar wind properties, underlying processes, and their impact on Earth. ISRO also tweeted it out on X, formerly known as Twitter. The agency said the Swiss instrument was activated on the 2nd of November 2023 and has exhibited optimal performance. As per a statement issued by ISRO, the Aditya Solar Wind Particle Experiment, acronym ASPEX, on board India's Aditya L1 satellite is performing normally. Now, ASPEX comprises of two cutting-edge instruments, the Solar Wind Ion Spectrometer, also called SWIS, and STEPS, which is the Suprathermal and Energetic Particle Spectrometer. Meanwhile, coming up is our segment on climate change. It's important that we talk about it. The Conference of Parties is happening and we have stories from around the world for you. The world leaders at COP28 Climate Summit convened to address the escalating threat of climate change, emphasizing the critical need for swift and decisive action. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres set the tone by calling for the outright phase-out of oil and gas, aligning with the Paris Agreement's goals. Here are the big takeaways from the COP28 summit on your screens. Now, world leaders have emphasized the urgent and significant threat of climate change, highlighting the need for immediate and drastic action to combat global warming. Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva committed to stopping deforestation in his country by 2030. The Israel-Hamas war cast a shadow over the conference as a week-long ceasefire ended, the leaders expressing sympathy for Palestinians and connecting their suffering to the broader climate change crisis. Now, COP28 saw the announcement of significant financial commitments and ambitious plans. The formation of the Climate Club by 36 countries aimed at tackling industrial emissions was a notable initiative. Vietnam presented its plan under the Just Energy Transition Partnership, outlining how it will spend $15.5 billion pledged by the rich nations to it. The plan aims to accelerate Vietnam's shift away from fossil fuels, boosting its reliance on renewable sources to meet energy needs. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, he signaled a clearer determination to address climate change by pledging to halt new construction of unabated coal-fired power plants domestically. India has typically emphasized its commitment to sustainable development while addressing climate change. It often advocates for differentiated responsibilities, acknowledging the historical contribution of developed countries to carbon emissions. And that's not all. The Prime Minister had made sure that he urged everybody to let India host the COP33 in 2028. Now, leaders also acknowledged the severe consequences of climate change and the need for collective action. UN Secretary General highlighted that while the world is far from the Paris Agreement goals, preventing planetary crash and burn is still achievable, but with immediate and concerted efforts. Meanwhile, a record-breaking drought has sapped the Amazon River and 4 of its biggest tributaries to their lowest levels in at least half a century. This, even as scientists anticipate the next year could bring an even more intense drought.
From killing hundreds of endangered river dolphins to threatening the livelihoods of millions of people, this is the impact of the Amazon rainforest's historic drought. It sapped the Amazon River and 4 of its biggest tributaries to their lowest level in at least half a century, and the worst may be yet to come. Experts are predicting an even more intense drought next year due to extreme ocean temperatures worsened by global warming.
What is expected is that next year there will still be a drought due to this year's low water levels. And that happens because the water reserve will be compromised, and also because of this year's drought.
Amazonas, which has been hit hardest by the drought, declared a public emergency in September. The state has delivered drinking water and food staples via aircraft and smaller boats. Helicopters are working overtime to airlift the sick. Meanwhile, thousands of students are enrolled in online classes because they can no longer get to school. The federal government has pledged millions of dollars towards relief efforts.
The human side is the one that suffers these consequences the most.
9 scientists interviewed by Reuters said the effects of the drought will only begin to recede with the onset of the rainy season in late 2024. 5 of those scientists didn't expect the Amazon to recover before 2026. They expect it will take 2 healthy rainy seasons to restore normal soil moisture in the rainforest. But even that could change based on El Niño. The naturally occurring phenomenon roils global weather every 2 to 7 years. As it warms waters off the Pacific coast of South America, it pulls rains in that direction, depressing precipitation in the Amazon. The current El Niño is estimated to last until mid-2024.
And before we wrap this segment up, it is Christmas season, and take a look at this climate change aspect. In the small village of Serd, which has supplied most of Hungary with Christmas trees for decades, villagers over there now worry that their livelihood could be in danger as the pine forests are shrinking due to climate change.
The small village of Serd has supplied Hungary with Christmas trees for decades. But the pine forests there are shrinking due to climate change, threatening the livelihoods of local villagers.
If this continues and we do not change the climate, then we will have big problems.
In 2022, Hungary's pine forests covered more than 430,000 acres of land. That's down from over 450,000 acres in 2019, according to National Land Centre data. Some of these trees are not indigenous to Hungary, but were planted in the early 20th century. Pines have been adversely impacted by global warming, not just because of more frequent droughts. They're also being destroyed by wood-boring insects, which tend to proliferate in warmer weather. In the hills of Serd, Hungarians grow up to 2 million pine trees near the Croatian border. Growers say they now have to spray their plantations 3 times a year with insecticides to fend off the bugs. János Kanaz is the mayor of Serd and a pine tree grower.
Unfortunately, things are going a bad way, in the sense that the spruce trees have been hit by the infestation. And other types of pine trees must also be sprayed 3 times now. The spruce trees are the worst affected. It is in vain to spray them. The wood-boring insects go in deeply, and we could not halt the disease. We now have to spray from early on, when the trees are small. Since I started more than 10 years ago, there have been more and more diseases affecting the pine trees. And it is costing us more and more, because we have to spray the pine trees to save them.
Kanaz says villagers ought to raise prices by about 20% this year due to the cost of insecticide. But this is not possible, as Hungarians have been hit by double-digit inflation and will not be able to afford to pay more for their Christmas trees.
Everyone would like to sell their pine trees, as that is their living. They have to put a lot of work into it, and they rather sell at last year's prices than not being able to sell. We are all seeing that people have run out of their money.
While pine trees are unlikely to disappear in Hungary, the share of pine forests will inevitably decrease further. That's according to Laszlo Galidi, a forest program officer at the World Wildlife Fund Hungary.
Hungary's continental climate is not really favorable for pine trees, and this has been coupled with the strengthening impacts from climate change, with long droughts and warmer summers. This has resulted in various insects being able to attack these trees more easily and more severely.
चलो जी कोनी मिले वोट जी
गाली भड़काने वाली स्पीच हो रही है।
केसीआर की आदत झूठे वायदे करके उन्हें तोड़ देने की है।
केसीआर चैन की नींद मत सो, आपका समय अब समाप्त हो चुका है।
जब तक केसीआर जिंदा है तब तक तेलंगाना रियासत एक सेक्युलर रियासत ही बने रहेगा।
मारूफू कवाली कांग्रेस रवाली।
मध्य प्रदेश जो है भ्रष्टाचार का कैपिटल है।
Do you know how many students left India last year? Take a wild guess. More than 7 lakh students. That's more than the population of a small state like Sikkim. These students spent more than 40,000 crore rupees on their education. That's more than 65 times the 600 crore budget of India's Chandrayaan 3 mission. So what's driving students away from India?
My name is Hia. I just gave my 12th board examinations in 2022.
Hi, I'm Tanya. I'm an economist by profession.
Just finished my first year of bachelor's in America.
My name is Sandra Agarwal. I am living in Delhi for the past 1 year because of my post-graduation, which I am pursuing from Jamia Millia Islamia.
For the past year and a half, I've been in the US working with research organizations.
And I study psychology with neuroscience. I'm doing a double major.
And I'm now going to start a PhD in economics in the US.
It was my final semester when the COVID happened. So I had planned since 2018 that I will go immediately either US or UK.
Psychology is definitely offered in India, but when I was researching for programs or degrees or colleges, I realized there are a lot more unnecessary battles in becoming a psychologist in India, such as something I feel which is as bare minimum as internships or experience in this field are required to be paid.
I always knew I wanted to do research. And as much as I know about the Indian research ecosystem, specifically with social sciences, it seemed it was better to be abroad for that, for multiple reasons. One is the teaching or the curriculum is more focused at teaching here, but they weren't evaluated on their research qualifications as such. Whereas in the US or the UK, where I pursued my master's, the incentives are completely different, where they do not focus on teaching, but focus more on what is the research output of the professor.
As compared to India, there's more practical approach there. You are allowed to do things beyond your course.
I definitely feel there's a lot more variety and flexibility. You can add more majors to your degree, you can remove something, or you can pursue several different types of certificates or diplomas while you're doing it.
I think MBA is definitely, I think, probably the most sought after degree. So STEM are basically all the science, technology, maths related degrees. I think generally STEM is something that's extremely rewarding right now, like that's where most of the money is.
This is very newly developed, kind of like an idea that you have to get a 97 or a 98 to get into deemed university such as DU or Mumbai University. It's extremely flawed. With the new CUET program, I didn't give those exams, but I know a lot of friends who did that, and the experiences they had or what I was told were pretty miserable. Exams were delayed for months. The exams got vanished. Like my friends gave their exams, but they never got a result.
Literally every major power in the world is gearing up with its own digital currency. And so is India. But India's UPI has taken digital transactions to the next level. So, with UPI already available, what exactly is the use case for the e-rupee?
This and more streaming on world's first news OTT. News9 Plus, download now.
Namaskaram, the South Indian is here, and like I always say, one of the biggest festivals of India are the elections. It's the elections which brings people together, which of course where parties fight also, but ultimately everybody goes home smiling, laughing, because that is the vibrancy of our fantastic, fabulous democracy. It's just 48 hours to the ending of the suspense in Telangana. I shall not call out the elections. I never do that. But of course, quote the poll of polls about which we spoke all along on this platform, and also specifically focusing on Telangana, considering this is the South Indian. Let's take a look at what different pollsters have predicted for Telangana. There it is, the projections according to Pollstrat. BJP is 5 to 10 plus, INC 49 to 59, BRS 48 to 58, others 6 to 8. According to Jan Ki Baat, BJP 5, 63 for the Congress, 44 for the BRS, AIMIM 5, others is 2. According to Matriz is 4 to 9 for the Bharatiya Janata Party, the Congress Party between 58 to 68, the BRS 46 to 56. AIMIM is kind of, there is a pendulum between 5 to 7. According to CNX, it's 2 to 4 for the BJP, INC 63 to 79, 31 to 47 for the Bharat Rashtra Samiti, 5 to 7 for the AIMIM. And today's Chanakya, it's BJP 7, 71 for the INC. I think the largest number so far, no, but CNX has also said between 63 to 79. Meanwhile, today's Chanakya, let's focus on that. It gives BRS 33 for the AIMIM. It's drawn a knot as of now, and others are 8. So if you look at it, net, they have given more numbers to the Indian National Congress as against the Bharat Rashtra Samiti led by Chief Minister KCR, K. Chandrasekhar Rao. So ladies and gentlemen, if this is the scenario, and if this remains a constant on Sunday, then the question that needs to be raised is, how did the Congress gear up for the Telangana elections? How did a party which was nowhere on the horizon a year ago give the BRS a run for its money? And this is going strictly by the poll of polls. But before we delve into the reasons for the Congress's resurrection, here are some of the voices on the exit poll.
I don't understand what kind of illogical exit poll this is when people are still queued up. People are still voting. What kind of a stupid exit poll is that, where people are all continuing to vote, and now you come out with this and publish it. In a way, indirectly, I can accuse you also of being hand in glove with my opposition, but I'll not go thus far. All I'm going to say is, it's ridiculous of Election Commission of India also, basically to allow for exit polls at 5:30 when people are queuing up to vote till 9. I think it's very ludicrous.
हर तरफ से अच्छा न्यूज़ आ रहा है और बहुत ही अच्छा न्यूज़ आ रहा है और ऑलमोस्ट हमारे हर असेंबली हल्के में सेलिब्रेशन भी हो रहा है ऑलरेडी। अनफॉर्चुनेटली फॉर देम सेलिब्रेशन उनका खाली जाएगा, हमारा तो अच्छे से आएगा क्योंकि लास्ट टाइम भी यही उन्होंने कंफ्यूजन करने का कोशिश किया था, लेकिन अल्टीमेटली बीआरएस जीती है और इस बार भी बीआरएस ही जीतेगी।
जो सर्वे कुछ कम ज़्यादा उसमें आ रहे हैं, लेकिन सभी ये बता रहे हैं कि कांग्रेस पार्टी 60 के आगे जाएगी, मेजॉरिटी आएंगी। लेकिन कुछ सर्वे ये भी कह रहे हैं कि अच्छी तरह पोजीशन में कांग्रेस पार्टी आएगी। हमारा पहले से ही कहना है कि हम 70+ तेलंगाना में जाएंगे।
लेकिन जो एग्जिट पोल के आंकड़े आ रहे हैं, क्या नतीजे भी वैसे ही होंगे?
बिल्कुल, नतीजे 100%। 70+ तो हमने पहले से, क्योंकि हर कॉन्स्टिट्यूंसी के अंदर क्या स्थिति है इसका जायजा हमने लिया है, बार बार चर्चा हुई है, वहाँ की स्थितियों के बारे में चर्चा हुई है और हमने बड़ी अच्छी तरीके से कैंपेन भी चलाया है, सीट के बारे में भी बड़ी अच्छी तरीके से चयन किया है और हमें पूरा भरोसा है।
These are only indications, ladies and gents. These numbers that we saw a little while ago, that is poll of polls, these are just numbers, these are just indications. But then, going by this indication, it's time now to dive deep into the reasons for Congress's resurgence in Telangana. But before that, I'm going to introduce you. That is what we are talking about. If we can show the viewers what we are speaking about, the Congress's, this is the first reason. But before that, let us say hello to the guest. Without the guest, my show isn't complete. First, let's take this off and let me now introduce the guest to you. There you are, Mr. K.S. Prasad. I mean, I don't even need the teleprompter right now. Senior journalist Sai Shekhar, senior journalist and a political analyst, and Roydin Roach, also someone who is a very well-known journalist. But before that, let me say that he is also someone who supports the Congress, and Kingshuk Nag, who is author as well as a very well-known veteran journalist. All of them are joining us. So the first reason, as it were, ladies and gentlemen, and I need to look at that camera so that you can look at what we are projecting. The first reason for the so-called resurgence, I'm saying so-called because tomorrow I shouldn't have egg on my face and I don't have to eat crow. The first reason for it is, of course, the Karnataka factor. If we can have it on the wall right now, the Karnataka factor, the Congress's win in neighboring Karnataka in May of 2023, and there are different reasons. This will keep changing as you see. The myth, which was exploded that the Congress has been decimated in the country, so no way can it make a comeback. The 5 guarantees promised and delivered by the Congress in Karnataka, the Karnataka factor, we are focusing on it. The managing of Siddaramaiah, DKS differences, there were lots of differences between the two, and the way the Congress managed it, and the appointment of an OBC chief minister, Siddaramaiah, that is one of the crucial points. So this will stay, and of course now the guests will come on, but the first is the reason for the resurgence of the Congress could as well be that the Karnataka factor. Let me just go to Mr. Prasad first. Mr. Prasad, do you think that if these numbers indicate anything, do you think that the Karnataka factor does have, in the overall strategy of the Congress, did it have a major impact on Telangana Congress and overall, opinion in Telangana?
Good evening, ma'am, and good evening to the co-panelists. It's very clear, ma'am, as far as the Telangana people's voice right now, as far as this election is concerned, they are not asking, they are just asking for a change. And the anti-incumbency is not adding to that. Change is nothing but there are certain consistencies where people are not being accepted by the people around. Just like some MLAs, like 45 to 50 people who have been given B forms from BRS, is not been accepted by the Telangana people. So the 50 people's negativity is leading to the party where Congress is enhanced it themselves for the sake of elections and all. So this is not at all the people's verdict towards the Congress government and all. When it really matters to the forming of Congress government is something different, where Karnataka is anti-incumbency and the 40% corruption and other things are concerned. But if you really look into it, the 45% average consistently maintained by BRS as far as these elections are concerned. But the polling itself is an indicator. When it compared to last time, it is 74 almost At this time, it is 70.63. The 3 to 4% lesser polling is also an indication that there is no such anti-incumbency on the government, where Congress all of a sudden they themselves emerged from third place to second place, which is not at all on the race before 20 to 25 days as far as the elections are concerned.
All right.
Today's emerging themselves to forming a government, always since 2014 itself, 14 and 2018, they have never even crossed 22 seats. All of a sudden, how can they get more than 50 plus seats to forming of a government? In the erroneous circumstances, even if they get 59 also, governor will not call him as a single largest
No,
party.
that is running with it, running away with
alternates.
it. No, Mr. Prasad, I'm going to go issue by issue. So you do think that the Karnataka factor has had an impact. Let us go the different, I mean, whether, and I'm making it very clear, this is not the gospel truth. None of the exit polls is ever the gospel truth. That's why I played out the bite of KTR Garu, also Thackeray, all of them right in the beginning. It shouldn't look as if I'm calling out the elections. Sai Shekhar, but as journalist, as political analyst, do you think that the Karnataka factor, the reasons I gave, the 5 guarantees, you know, an OBC as a chief minister, the fighting between DKS and Siddaramaiah, putting a lid on it, also, you know, every factor, do you think it has had a domino effect in Telangana or not?
No.
Wow.
I said no. But you know, there may be a general sense of fatigue, political fatigue, about a government that has been there in the state for 10 years. But then I don't think their 5 guarantees and other things are making any impact. And Karnataka has failed in implementing all those 5 guarantees. And I am not making a statement. We have done a field study and understood that Karnataka is unable to implement that free bus ride to women. Because of that, they have enhanced the price of tickets by 20% for men. This is what, like robbing Peter to pay Paul. And for implementing 200 units free power, Grah Jyoti, or whatever, Griha Lakshmi, I don't know their names, nomenclature, but 200 units of electricity free to a certain category of people. The average price rise for other electricity users is 70 paise per unit. And they are unable to implement this Annabhagya scheme, which is, you know, instead of Annabhagya, because they don't have Food Corporation of India allotment and they don't have rice to give, they are giving money. And Yuva Shakti program has not yet started, and they have advertised, you know, in the Telangana newspaper, Hyderabad newspapers about Karnataka schemes. And for Yuva Shakti scheme, they put 2 professional models and they were called out. So, and 5 guarantees, most of them are Raitu. For example, you take Raitu Bharosa. That is a copycat of Raitu Bandhu, which is the first innovative scheme that is implemented by KCR. So that is not that.
Yeah, you have a good...
Exit poll, listen, Sudha. These exit polls may have given that indication because of the general fatigue against a political party that is power for 10 years.
Yeah, but then fatigue is also a very kind of esoteric term. What is fatigue?
Correct.
I mean, you know, I do not, I mean, I want to believe in data. I want to believe in clear perception. To say, oh, there is fatigue, boredom, all this is it really, I mean, I don't believe in it personally as a journalist. One has to dig deep to figure out what happened. Mr. Nag, do you think that the Karnataka factor, the winds were blowing from neighboring Karnataka into Telangana, and one of the reasons for the Congress's resurgence could very well be the Karnataka impact, as it were?
At an overall level, yes. When the Congress did well in Karnataka, it was felt that in neighboring Andhra Pradesh also, in neighboring Telangana also it can do well. But that's not the real reason. The real reason is there's a lot of fatigue against this government. 10 years of Raj by KCR, and people want a change, and therefore the change is here. Now, what do you do in a change? In a change, you vote for another party. Here, the other party available is Congress and not the BJP. So, Congress is getting all the votes. That is the real reason. Fatigue of voters against the existing setup and going for a change. Now, they can't vote for the BJP because it does not exist here. So, they will vote for Congress only. That's how Congress is winning.
Again, Mr. Nag says it's fatigue, they want a change. But you know, it's more than that. I think there has to be some empirical reasons, I feel, and that's why I've listed it, and I'm happy that my guests, you know, particularly Sai Shekhar, will just explode whatever I say and say you're wrong, Sudha, and that is what is good about a healthy debate in any kind of a format. You know, Roydeen, I want to come to you, and not as a supporter of the Congress, because Sai is also not going to speak. When I tell him, he wears the, you know, the hat of a journalist that he is, and very well known and very, very clued into both Telangana and Andhra Pradesh. Roydeen, I'm asking you, the Karnataka factor, I mean, isn't that something which has had an impact on the resurgence of the Congress in Telangana? 1 year ago, we didn't even, no one bothered. It was just the BRS, it was pink everywhere.